Welcome to Inspired Living with Marc Lainhart, the intuitive prospector. Every Wednesday, Marc, along with his special guests, will explore thought-provoking topics and ideas that promote creativity, self-help, healing, happiness, and well-being to inspire you on your spiritual journey. Each week, Marc will discuss different paths to achieving a more spiritual, balanced, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual. Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. Marc is a tested, certified, and professional spiritual medium, metaphysical teacher, healer, and spiritual advisor with a spiritual practice based in Seattle, Washington. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
I'm ready to accept the challenge. I'm coming home. That's a quote from Mr. LeBron James. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful, resting, healing, changing planet of ours. This is Inspired Living Radio. I'm your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's live show. We're going to have a fantastic guest joining us all the way from across the world over in Norway. So it's noon here in Seattle, Washington, but I know it's late for her over in Norway. And I want to just say thank you for always tuning into our live shows. We love and appreciate our inspired listeners, our global community all around the world. Just want to say, take the next 60 minutes to kick back, grab a cup of coffee, grab a tea, and let's do a little spiritual prospecting for your own spiritual healing, spiritual transformations, and of course, your own spiritual goal. I just want to say, before we begin, there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of changes going on in the world. A lot of what I've talked about in previous podcasts, shows that I've done about what 2020 was going to be. And I just want to take just a brief moment of silence to recognize Mr. Floyd here in the United States, that has really been the catalyst for change that is coming not only to the United States of America, but to the world, to end racism, to finally come to terms with 401 years of racism here in this country. And I know right now in all 50 states across the United States and over 18 countries around the world, we are now witnessing a part of history, and we are part of the biggest civil rights movement in the history of the world. And I just want to take a moment of silence just to honor those that have passed into spirit, those that have stood up, those that have made a change, those communities of color, those communities of minorities. We just want to say, we see you. You are the inspired and the inspiration. And I just want to take a moment of silence just to honor them. I'm ready to accept the challenge. I'm coming home. And we can always hold space for others during difficult times, during changing times, and even just taking a moment of silence to recognize, to acknowledge, to see others in our world and hold space for these challenging and changing times that we're all going through. But I'm going to be like LeBron James, one of the greatest basketball players in the NBA here. I'm ready to accept the challenge, and I'm coming home. So thank you for honoring space with me. We're going to get into the show now. Well, if you want to work with me, you can always go to marclainhart.com, internet search The Intuitive Prospector. You can also catch me every Monday morning for Metaphysical Mocha Mondays live through my Facebook and YouTube channels. So make sure to subscribe so you can do a little Mocha Monday with me over a cup of coffee. That's always followed by the Healing Cafe. Those all start at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and followed by the Healing Cafe at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you want to subscribe to my newsletter, Soul Adventures, get on my YouTube channel, you can just go to marclainhart.com. That's really your one-stop shop for all articles, links, videos, booking a reading with me, and of course, doing a little spiritual prospecting for your own spiritual gold. If you don't catch today's live show, you can always go to the encore shows, and there's a few locations that you can find our encore shows as we've moved into our 5th season of Inspired Living Radio. We're found on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Podbean, marclainhart.com, and of course you can always come right here to OMTimes Radio and OMTimes Radio Archives to find all of our past shows where we have had amazing topics, wonderful guests, inspiring information, educational and transformational information as well. And today is going to be no different with our special guest. You can also follow us right now over on social media. You can follow us on our main Facebook page, which is called Inspired Living Radio. asked to join the Inspired listening community all around the world, where we have now well over almost 1,500 members around the globe. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and the handle for that is Inspired for Us. That is the number 4, so Inspired for Us. So I want to give you a positive mantra, as we like to do with all my shows, is give you a mantra, something to think about, something to take away after listening to the show. And it's really more of a challenge based on what we're going through in these unprecedented times, whether you're being impacted by COVID, whether you're being impacted by protests, whether you're being impacted by financial constraints based on the economy. There's a lot going on, so this is a really good time to become a serious student of American history. I talked about this on my morning show Monday morning, as above, so below, as behind, so ahead. And we can really learn from the teachers of the past to help us see where we're going in our future. So that's what's going to be the mantra, is challenging yourself to become a serious student of not only history, but of American history, and understand why you have democracy, understand why freedom is not free, and take this time during these periods of isolation that we find ourselves in to learn about the history so we can know where we're going moving forward. So with that, I'd like to just welcome our special guest today. Her name is, well, she's first Norway's favorite inspirational teacher. She's an international speaker and life coach, Rometris Davis-Wright. We're going to be talking about her new book that's coming out here later this year called Finding My Way Home. It's coming in 2020, so we're looking forward to that. We're also going to be talking about some inspirational topics, some self-help and personal development. And Rometris is an inspirational teacher. She's a speaker and mentor with over 20 years of experience and extensive study in personal self-development and healing, with a strong background in leadership. Her passion also includes public speaking engagement that address living an inspired life of authenticity, empowerment, and confidence. That's why we invited her to Inspired Living Radio. Rometris has helped inspire and transform the lives of thousands of clients internationally from many different walks of life and backgrounds, and offers in-person, one-on-one, and online events and consultations. Rometris' work provides a safe space, free of judgment, to allow you to be the best version of yourself and to let go of anything that gets in the way of your living an inspired life. She uses her innate leadership qualities and empathy to provide clarity, guidance, support, motivation, or whatever is required to provide lifelong tools that best assist you in your life. She has had a wonderful opportunity to study with some of the best teachers in the field of business, personal development, and self-help. As a teacher herself, she believes we must always be willing to learn as students in order to increase our ability and capacity to guide others. She has also had the honor to work with thousands of people internationally from different walks of life and backgrounds to help them transform their lives through speaking events, private sessions, and courses. With her professional and knowledgeable background and thorough way of working, she can assist you with having the confidence to live an inspired life and be more of who you truly are. And that's her tagline. Remember who you truly are. You can learn more about Rometris at rometris.com. Rometris, welcome to Inspired Living Radio, my friend.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Well, I couldn't think of a better guest to have on Inspired Living Radio than somebody that works in the industry to inspire, to motivate, encourage, heal, transform. We've been working together, Rometris and I. We've been doing a couple Level Up series online via Zoom, which has had a lot of success in connecting with people all around the planet just during these unprecedented times, these difficult and challenging times we find ourselves in. And what better way to be a lighthouse? What better way to be a ripple of light and positivity, and to help people, level up or be inspired or to transform. So just introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from in the world and how you got into this, and just kind of connect with our global audience.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, Mark. Well, it's interesting because I would say that I would be one of those people in the forefront to be able to speak about this subject, about inspiration, about stepping up into your divinity, about having confidence, about being your true self. Because I grew up in a small town in Indiana, in the USA, so I have a strong connection with America, although I now live in Norway. And so growing up in that small town in Indiana, going to college in Nebraska, moving to Los Angeles, and then to a small town in Norway, and then ultimately where I am now in the larger city in Oslo. And I know you're going to ask what brought me to Norway. It was love. I met my husband, my Norwegian husband, while I was living in Los Angeles. So as I'm sharing right now, you could understand how I've experienced many different cultures, many different backgrounds, many different ways of living, many different mindsets and perspectives. And each place that the universe guided me, I had to adapt. So I thought. So to not make a long story, to make a long story short, what I feel ultimately, my work is to assist people with being their authentic selves. There's no need to adapt to where you are. Allow your surroundings to adapt to who you are. And so that's the lesson that I had to learn, moving from different places, different locations around the world. I had to learn to be authentically me, unapologetically. And it's been the most amazing journey, and I would never change anything at all. And so now I help other people to step up, to level up, and to be the truth of who they are. And I do that with my one-to-one private sessions, my in-person courses that we no longer have at this moment, online, one-to-one, and in groups. And it doesn't feel like work. Mark, you and I spoke about this in our Level Up series when we're assisting people with having inspiration, even during the challenging times. There's always that glimmer of hope. There's always that light that shines within us that's never extinguished. And if we really go within, even in the most chaotic of times, just go within and be still and listen. We're all born with this. It's nothing special. We're not special. But when we take the time and we sit in that stillness and we reflect, all the answers are within. And if the answers don't come, you will receive some type of impulse on how to contribute to the chaos around us. And it just brings me a great pleasure to work this way.
Yeah, very much so. And I just, when you were talking, it reminded me of a quote from Dr. King where he talks about we must accept finite disappointment, but we must never lose infinite hope. And during these trying times, we have to keep the hope. We have to find the good in the day. We have to have that attitude for gratitude. Very much what we were talking about on our Level Up series. And I find too, for the work that we do, I find that some of the most powerful souls are often sent to the darkest places with our backgrounds, our stories, our family history. Mm-hmm. Right now we're addressing, racism, and we're addressing the injustices that have been taking place for many, many years. And I think it's finally, the Great Awakening. I talked about this at the beginning of the year. I talked about the great coming together. Now, with the psychic work I do, I don't always see exactly how it's going to play out, but I did see this big coming together. And I knew that people were going to start to come together from all walks of life to start being the human race, not just a race with different colors and creeds, but one human race. And we're seeing that right before our eyes. And even though the times are trying and challenging and there's a lot of anger and frustration, I'll tell you what, Rometris, I'm excited. I'm excited that we're finally going to start to make a change. We're going to start to have this great awakening, this great coming together, that shaking that causes the awakening, if you will. And I think people have said enough. And we're going to start to have this tipping point, whether it's, respecting the planet, which we learned from COVID-19 real quick, didn't we? You talked about you can't have your in-person workshops right now. And I think we're going to, finally address what's before all of us, which is, balance and equality for everybody. And I find that we can be inspiration, but we usually come from a past that's a little bit troubled or dark. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And the way I feel, it's interesting how some people really digest inspiration during challenging times. Some people question it. How can you be inspired? How can you be leveled up? How can you be open? How can you be happy during these challenging times? But it's during these challenging times that we have to level up, that we have to shine brighter, that we have to dig into our reservoir of strength to be able to lift other people up. We can't create change at the same level at which we caused it. We have to lift ourselves up in order to lift other people up. And so for me, inspiration is a beautiful thing. Inspiration is not only for the special people. We all have it if we're willing. We have to be willing. And so, you know, when you're optimistic about life, and when we work with our clients one-to-one to understand that, as we spoke about the other day, our outer world is a reflection of what's going on inside. So, you know, I can look at the events that are happening from here in Norway, and we look at what's going on in the USA. Wow, it's unfathomable. It's like we're watching a movie. We can't believe it. But since I am an American living in Norway, I'm keeping it real. And I know the realness of it, the rawness of it, the vulnerability, all of that. I'm feeling it and I'm living it. And a family member that's very, very close to me, I had somewhat of an emotional time just watching the news and watching everything in front of me as it transpired. And this loved one said, but, you know, it's so far away. Why are you so emotional? And another comment they said was, well, that's them. Why are you taking it so personal? And so I had to really go into that space inside of me to not create additional chaos by judging this person for not really knowing any better. They were doing the best that they can. And like you were saying, now more than ever, we have to stick together. Now more than ever, we have to have compassion, and we have to be able to walk in the other person's shoes and to see each other as souls, not color or not name or not our profession. And so it was at that time where I realized, you know, ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss. And I just had to give forgiveness for judging this person for just, you know, being where they are. And so we have to ask ourselves, how can we contribute? You know, instead of dropping into judgment, how can we contribute? And so it's been a very challenging time, but us as light workers, as healers, as speakers, as coaches, they're all just really labeled. But us as souls who want to assist for the evolvement and upliftment of humanity, we have to start with ourselves.
So
we have to definitely start with
there. We do have to start for ourselves, and we're going to go to our first break. We're going to be back here in 2 minutes. I always say, be like a flower, survive the rain, but use it to grow. This is Inspired Living Radio. We'll be back here in 2 minutes with our very special guest, Rometris Davis-Wright. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
The future of internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
One planet, 7.3 billion people. Only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the intuitive prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Inspired Living Radio. Today's special guest calling all the way across the Atlantic Ocean in Norway, Norway's favorite inspirational teacher, international speaker, and life coach, Rometris Davis-Wright is our special guest today, talking about her new book, Finding My Way Home. I want to just say thank you, Rometris, for coming on and sharing your knowledge and your education and your inspiration with our global audience. And you were talking about, that perspective of being outside of the United States and looking in like a movie. So if this is like a movie, can I be Tom Hanks as the actor?
No, you're better than Tom Hanks. Absolutely. So, I'm going to get your autograph later. Thanks.
So for our listeners out there, if you have a question and you want to call in, we will open the phone lines, put you in the waiting room. The number to call is 202-570-7057. And if you have a question for Rometris or myself on today's topic, we're talking about everything from, spiritual topics to self-help topics. And for you, Rometris, who would be your inspirations? Who are the ones you talked about finding that inner peace right before the break and going within and those challenges that we all face? And it kind of reminded me of a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson where he talked about peace can't be achieved through violence, it can only be attained through understanding. Where do you find your understanding and inspiration, and who would you find are the people or the places or the things that bring you inspiration to stay positive during these times?
I love that quote that you just shared, Mark. And, if you can repeat it again when you're ready, that would be great, because you would think that we would get it by now because history repeats itself. It's just as simple as that. Negativity begets negativity. And, in order for us to get out of this darkness, we have to bring more light and awareness to others, to ourselves. And, it is a very, very delicate subject to talk about. But to answer your question, my inspiration absolutely are my children, all 5 of them. And I don't know what I was in my past life, but children are just beautiful souls to me. Just giving birth to each of those children, seeing the innocence in their eyes just reminds me of where I came from. And a lot of us feel like we were dropped off on this planet. And, and we were just dropped off and didn't get the T-shirt. It's like, really? Yes, I know that I have a mission. Yes, I know I have a purpose, but we forget and we feel lonely. And so my children are my biggest inspiration, because when I look into each of their eyes, even though it's 5 of them, it's 5 individual souls, and each of them has taught me something. Although all of them are my children, each of them are different, and they've encouraged me to be the best version of myself as a mom. The challenges that I have in life, they encourage me, they motivate me, and at the end of the day, they still love me no matter what. So I would say my children are my best inspiration in life.
I love that. The circle of life, the inspiration of life itself, to see life come in and change your world, and that innocence that you talked about. I love that. And I think it's important that we find, whether it's your children, whether it's an author, or whether it's an actor, or, it's always important to find those inspirations in life to keep you going, to keep you moving forward. And the quote that I had said from Ralph Waldo Emerson is, he talked about from his writings that peace cannot be achieved through violence. It can only be attained through understanding. And I totally feel that's where we're at right now. I feel that we are finally getting to the deeper understanding. You're right, about history. Like I said at the beginning of the show, is to become, a serious student of history. Learn not only American history, learn world history, because history doesn't repeat itself the exact same way, but as Mark Twain talked about, it often has a rhyme and a rhythm to it. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of rhyming and rhythm going on right now with everything that we're going through. But I think it's important to remind people to find those inspirations, whether it's a person, a place, a song, a movie, a thing, something that brings you inspiration, and for you, it's your children. And
yes.
Talking about your new book, let's talk about your new book real quick, Finding My Way Home. That comes out when?
It will come out this fall. Absolutely. So I'll keep you guys on your seat. You can follow Mark and I's work, and you'll be the first to know about it.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to reading it. It's From Feeling Lost to Being Found. What do you mean by that? From feeling lost to being found?
Well, Mark, I would say that it speaks for itself. It's, as I was saying, a lot of us feel like we were just dropped off on this planet and just left up to our own reconnaissance to figure it out. But that's far from the truth. As I reflect as a wife now, as a mom, as a sister, as a daughter, the many roles that I wear in this life, as a mentor, as a teacher, I realize now what my path was offering me, what my path was providing an opportunity for me. And in other words, my challenges were golden opportunities for learning. Where I am now in my life, I understand that. But during the process, during the unfoldment, I just felt lost. I felt lonely. I felt misunderstood. I felt unseen. I felt unheard. You know, we hear this all the time. You know, many different stories, many different forms. But this is my story, and this is my truth. But through it all, where I am now, and I'm sure when I'm 60 or 70 or sometime in the future, I'll say that I have found my way home at that time. But right now, where I am, I know what came before me has brought me where I am today, and it needed to happen the way that it happened. And so right now, I feel I'm at home. And I realize that home is wherever I take myself. Wherever I am, there I am. Wherever I go, there I am. And so I realize that now. But back in my younger years, I just remember always saying to myself, I'm ready to go home. And I didn't understand why I always thought that. And I would even speak with friends, and I would say, one day I wish I would go home. And they're like, they would have like this confused look on their face. What do you mean home? But I didn't know myself. So I feel like all of us desire for that nirvana, for that bliss, for that comfort, for that connection, for that oneness, whatever you want to call it. We all have an urge for that. And once we work our process, once we go through life one foot in front of the other, trusting as much as we can, transforming the shadow into light, into opportunity, into awareness, then we will realize we were always home. And it's just beautiful. My book is about transformation. It was my personal transformation, experiences that I've had in the past, and the realization of what they were placed on my pathway for. And so I feel like these tools in this book, these stories in this book will help other people who feel alone, who have felt unseen, unheard, unloved, to help them to see that everything that they were seeking was already within them. And it's just a beautiful, I don't want to tell too much about the book, you know.
Give the ending away. Come on. We want the ending.
I'll leave you guys with a cliffhanger right now. So it's definitely my baby. I guess you would say I have 6 babies then, but this book is definitely my baby. And I'm looking forward to sharing it with the public this autumn. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with that single step. And that's Finding My Way Home, From Feeling Lost to Being Found by Rometris Davis-Wright. Personal memoir, perhaps?
Oh, yes. I love that. Oh, personal memoir. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, and where will that be available for our listening audience? How can they get the book? Digital or hard copy?
Okay. Yes, it will be in the beginning. Of course, it'll be digital, and then you can purchase it on Amazon.com. And then later, I would say around the winter time, you can purchase it in hard copy. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to sharing my story. As we spoke about before this talk, inspiration is everything. You know, inspiration is our prescription. You don't even have to go to the doctor to get this, right? Inspiration is within each of us. And to inspire others is the utmost way of being of service in this lifetime.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what the tagline of the show is: be inspired, inspire others, and inspire before we expire, right? So make sure to check that book out for Rometris when it comes out this fall and later this winter. You can also go to rometris.com. I'm sure there will be some links there. We have that posted on our closed Facebook page, Inspired Living Radio. If you haven't already joined the listening community from around the globe, get on our Facebook page or follow us on Instagram or Twitter under the handle Inspired for Us. That is the number 4. If you have a question for Rometris or myself, we will be opening up the phone lines. The number to call is 202-570-7057. And today we're talking about all topics from inspiration, transformation, healing, that journey of going within. I find that, those difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations, as the old saying goes. And I truly believe that. You said dropped off on the planet. It's kind of like, when we die, is that light at the end of the tunnel, that white light that we see at the end of the tunnel, is that just us popping back out to redo this all over again, right? Being dropped off again. Because I keep asking for, Scotty of Star Trek to beam me up, Scotty, with everything that's going on. But we've got to find, I find that the most challenging times, and that's where we're at right now. I think the timing of this show, the timing of this topic is very divine. I find that, the most challenging times bring us the most empowering lessons. You talked about a family member, a friend that was here in the United States saying, "Why do you care? You're so far away." And I would agree with where you were coming from, Rometris, because we're not really that far away. The globe has gotten smaller, I feel, from this pandemic, from the health crisis that led us to a financial crisis, to a full-blown culture civil crisis that we find ourselves in. And I think the world is actually coming together, and the world is actually a much smaller place. So what happens in one happens in another. What happens to one person is a direct reflection of what happens into another, because we're all at some point connected, that symbiotic relationship. And again, I truly believe, as my tagline of the Intuitive Prospector is that diamond is literally a chunk of coal that's within all of us that just did well under pressure, and applying those pressures of life, applying those tragedies or traumas or whatever your story is also helping you to find that diamond within. Because if there's no pressure, there's no diamond. And that's why I help people prospect to find that diamond within. And it's not always easy, right? It's the self-reflection, that going within. I'm sure at times writing this book for you, you probably had some very emotional moments or reflections, or pause to go and think about why you wrote some of the chapters. I would ask you, Rometris, for you, what's one of your favorite chapters in the book, as far as, without giving too much away, what really, as you were writing this book, what really crossed your heart, what really crossed your mind?
Well, you must be psychic, Mark, because when you were speaking about the tears, and the processing, and just, I'm feeling it right now. When I first began writing, my favorite part was me coming into existence. When you talked about that white light or that white tunnel, for me, it was just like this ride that was non-physical, that was just this light. It's like I can't even put it into words. I can't remember what I said in the book either, because I was in that space where I was just, my fingertips were moving faster than I could think. I was just on this beam of light, and I knew I had to be here on Earth. And in my book, I spoke of it in layman's terms. It wasn't airy-fairy. I was riding on this beam of light. I can't remember the exact words, but basically it was me coming to an existence, knowing that I chose my family, knowing that I chose my life experience, knowing that I chose the challenges, the heartbreak, the successes, knowing that I would okay, I'm trying to not say so much. Knowing that I would experience it, I would experience the things that I experienced as a baby, as a child, as a human. It's like I saw everything flash before my eyes before I came here, and I said yes, like an innocent child. And I was excited about it. And then I arrived, and everything changed. So that was my favorite chapter. It was so emotional. I mean, my paper was wet because I'm old school. Even though I was typing, I had to handwrite everything too. It's kind of like I like to have a backup file, and it has to be handwritten and typed. So on the paper, the handwritten part, it was just soaked and wet. I was just crying just so much. Tears of joy, tears of pain. Remembering that conversation with Source. Remember saying yes. And it was just the most beautiful chapter. That's the first chapter of my book. And it's I'll give this away. It's called Conception.
Confessions. And remember that conversation with Source.
Conception.
Conceptions. Everything comes into conception. Got it. So we're going to go to our second and final break. I love that, though, just coming to terms with the source and finding that source within. And, you know, it's you know, I always say that life has an odd way of making things work out in the end. So we got to be strong now, because things will get better. It might be stormy now, but it can't rain forever. This is Inspired Living Radio. We'll be back after our last and final break.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Have you wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
All right, welcome back to Inspired Living Radio. Just a reminder for all of our global listeners out there, whether you're catching the live broadcast or the replay via podcast, just want to say thank you for hanging out with us today. And just a reminder that all great changes are preceded by chaos. And remember, guys, tough times don't define you, they refine you. And Rometris Davis-Wright, Norway's favorite inspirational teacher, international speaker, and life coach, is here to remind us as we get into the last section of the show. She's going to share a little bit of her vision and mission with us. She's also going to give us, some wisdom on how to navigate these challenging times that we find ourselves. So, Rometris, I'm going to turn it over to you and just let you take it away and talk about your vision, your mission, and words of wisdom that you can offer all of our global inspired listeners all around the world.
Thank you, Mark. You know I'm passionate about this work, so you got to give me a time limit. How many minutes do I have?
Well, for the show, you got about 15 minutes, so.
Okay, right. All right. So I'll just go ahead and share. My vision for every soul whom I come in contact with is to make an impact on them in such a way that it creates lifelong changes. But I also recognize that meeting someone, that interaction, that connection is sacred. And whoever comes along in your path, you never know why they have come in your path. So instead of judging, instead of running away, or whatever your mental process is, just see every interaction that you come in contact with as sacred. That's the first thing I want to say. I'm like a kid in the candy store. I love meeting people from all over the world, people from all walks of life, no matter what their background, no matter what their beliefs are. You know, I can't really understand why people create the separation because of their political their political background or their religious background or the color of the skin. I don't understand that. And so, as you said, Marc, to really read up about history, I'm all for that. But also, I'm a curious person. I'm curious by nature. I'm a seeker, and so I seek to understand the mindset of each individual whom I come in contact with, and just the mindset of humans in particular. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is anyone who you meet, it's a divine connection. And there's always information there. The information will help you to grow, to be a better person. Think about it. If you meet only people who have the same thoughts as you, the same interests as you, everything is the same. Where do you get? How do you grow? How do you expand? Right? You just stay in the same space agreeing with each other. So you will meet people who are opposite of you, and that's a blessing. You'll meet people that's similar to you, and that's a blessing as well. And so I feel like that's one of the things I want to share with the listeners. Just be open to whoever it is who you come in contact with in your life, and know that that meeting is sacred. That's what I feel from my heart. And in addition to that, your challenges. Oh my gosh, the challenges that we have in life. Be courageous enough to face them. Be courageous enough to overcome them or to dissolve them. Because the challenges that we face are golden opportunities for us to learn. These challenges don't come into our life to break us. They're there to make us. And if all of us will adopt that mindset, wow, we would just be such a powerful community, just a powerful collective of beings uplifting the planet in the easy and most graceful way. And so I feel like that's important as well, seeing our challenges as golden opportunities for growth. That's how I see it. When I get triggers in life, when I see something in my outer experience and I'm triggered by it, I get curious. I'm like, wow, why was I taken back by that? Why did I have a negative response to that? I'm curious. So it's interesting because when I say this, it reminds me of one of my mentors, Marc, and I'm sure he's one of your mentors as well. And I can hear him say, be inquisitive, Rometris, be inquisitive. We have to be curious, right? We have to be curious of why things happen the way that they do.
Be childlike.
And yes, exactly. So that's another tip that I would give the listeners. Just be willing to be courageous to step into our triggers and the things that really hinder us. The third thing is know that you are a divine child of Source, of Creator, or whatever you call that presence that holds all things together. In this world of instant gratification, of media, and all these things that are material and superficial and mundane, they have a place in our world too, because we are physical beings. But I feel more and more we have gotten away from the spiritual part of ourselves, the part of ourselves that's not tangible, that can't be touched or seen, can only be felt. And we've gotten away from that to such a degree that now, in these times we're living in now, we are forced to face the shadow. We are forced to call upon that source that holds all things together. We are forced to go within. And so, although things are the way that they are now, again, I'm turning this experience that we're in into a golden opportunity to learn about myself, to see how I can transform any shadow within myself. If I see shadow, I'm like, yeah, bring it on. Help me to understand. I'm seeking to understand. So be inquisitive, seek to understand, and don't be so quick to jump to judgment. That's the easy way. Anybody can do that. Be that spiritual warrior you came here on earth to be. And that's the third suggestion that I would give our listeners. You got this, guys. You got this.
We do have this, and there's still more to come. I appreciate you sharing the wisdom and the self-help and the transformational process. Again, if you want to learn more about Rometris, you go to rometris.com. She's on all the social media platforms, Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. So I'd say probably just go to rometris.com. That's what I tell people nowadays. Just go to marclainhart.com as your one-stop shop. And everything else, you can get all the links, the articles, the shows, the inspirations. It's kind of a great way to just head over to rometris.com so you can get on her wait list for her book coming out, Finding My Way Home, From Feeling Lost to Being Found. And as we move forward, as somebody that does this work, I look at the planetary alignments as a futurist, as a seer, as a psychic. There are some difficult times ahead, but there's also the quote that I always hang on to from Franklin Delano Roosevelt that talked about when you come to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. And for a lot of us, we're already hanging on, and we're going to have to hang on a little bit more. I looked at the planetary alignment. I don't know if you knew this, Rometris, but I looked at the old Farmer's Almanac, and I also looked at our planetary alignment to see just how much history is resonating and repeating some of what we've gone from our past. And right now, the last time that Saturn, for all of you astrologers out there, the last time that Saturn was in Aquarius was during the Rodney King riots. The last time Pluto was in Capricorn was during the American Revolution, before the American Revolution actually started. And the last time Neptune was in Pisces is when the actual Rome dynasty fell. And right now, from a planetary alignment and from an astrology standpoint, we have all three going on right now. So we're going to have some changing times. We got some difficult times ahead. But, as we used to say in the Coast Guard, to get through those stormy seas, we do it as a crew, we do it as a ship, and we batten down the hatches, and we stay together, and we'll get through this. This too shall pass. And like I said, Rometris, I see this great coming together, whether through it's the power of change, the end of racism, the power to protest, people here in the United States, the First Amendment right, but you can do that peacefully. Violence doesn't solve anything. And I just want to remind everybody, and as Buddha reminds us, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. And we have to find that peace within. So Rometris, as we move into the end of the show here, any advice for the inspired listeners, and anything that you want to, one other gold nugget that you'd like to share for all those spiritual prospectors out there?
Absolutely. Now more than ever, it's time to show up in your glory. It's time to show up in your truth, in your authenticity. Be true. Be honest. Keep it real. Show the world who you are, your flaws, your quirks, your joys. Just be transparent. You know what? Because eventually you're not going to have a choice anyway. Everything's going to be transparent. So you might as well start right now. Be who you are unapologetically. That's being honest. If you're going to wear a facade and be who other people want you to be, you're not doing any justice for them, right? And you're not doing justice for yourself. Just be you, uniquely you. It's such a rewarding and beautiful thing. No one taught me. So I'm giving you guys this free advice. I had to go through this experience myself to realize, I could just be me. And I'm in my 40s now, so now I'm realizing it. So I'm giving that to you guys. You're welcome.
I think that's the school of hard knocks, right? The school of life as a student of life. It's learn that, because I don't think I got that. I don't think that was handed down to me either in my journey, and what I've learned.
Right.
So and that's part of it. That is that's why we're here. That's why we show up. That's why we were dropped off, as you said earlier in the show. Life is an acronym. Learn it from experience. You know, I'm thinking back from C.S. Lewis, he's one of my favorite authors because he wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe, one of my favorite books growing up. And he always talked about that we can't go back and change the beginning, but we can start where we are and change the ending. And I believe in that. I believe in what you're talking about, Rometris, that we have the ability to start right now where we're at in this current moment and change the ending of this story. And I'm looking forward to it. I see that this will pass. I do see the age of Aquarius. I see the shaking that has caused the global awakening. And I'm just in awe with not only what I see from the negativity, but what I see from the positivity and people coming together to stand up for what's right and what's wrong and address it. And I do believe that we are going to have the ability to change the ending.
Absolutely. And I feel like the best seat with all of this that's about to transpire in front of us, the best seat, the front row seat, is lifting your awareness, lifting your consciousness, and, you know, really just seeing things unfold right in front of you. So the best way you can do that is continue to be inspired. As you said, you know, observe beauty in all things. If it's in nature, if it's in music. I buy myself fresh flowers all the time. I know I've been married 20 years. My husband sometimes buys me flowers, not as much as, 10 years ago, but fresh flowers inspires me. You know, anything you can do to lift your vibration, to keep you inspired and just lift you above the mundane and the chaos. You'll have a front row seat in whatever is supposed to transpire in our lives coming forward. And it's going to be a beautiful thing. It might not feel like it at this moment, but it's going to be a beautiful thing because Spirit has our back.
Yeah, exactly. And again, front row seat. We are witnesses to history. We're going to be a part of this. They'll look back at this time in history with the Great Transformation. You know, it's just interesting to watch. And from a numerology standpoint, it makes sense. You know, I follow the numerology. I follow the astrology, and we're in 2020, which is the year of the 4. It's also called the Master Builder year in numerology. But if you know construction or you know engineering, you know if you're going to be a master builder of something, you come in to build this new house and there's something there, you got to tear it down. You got to tear down old ways of being. You got to tear down old ways of thinking. You got to tear down old structures so you can lay a new foundation to build upon that foundation. And it's tough. It's tough work. But I always say that you have to fight through some bad days to earn the best days of your life. And I feel that we are approaching some of the best days of our lives. But it won't come without trials and tribulation beforehand. But again, we do this together. Together we rise. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. And as you said, you know, when you were talking about that foundation and that structure, sometimes this foundation and structure has to be torn down in order for us to start anew. It has to be, you know, and it can be as simple as learning to say no. You know, I was brought up just being the nice person, right? Being the person that says yes, being the good girl. And then I realized saying yes all the time was just starting to drain me as I got older. Right. And then I realized, okay, I have to start saying yes to me. And so it doesn't mean I'm saying no to other people. I just had to start saying yes to me, but it was a scary thing. So I had to let go of those structures. Right. And a lot of those are physical as far as organizations and, you know, businesses, companies, government. And some of those are non-physical, and that our belief systems, the way we were raised, our mindset. Sometimes we have to dismantle those as well. But it's scary. A lot of us think, okay, well, if I just throw this all away, if I dismantle it, who will I be? Right? The people who love me and care for me, I'll be lonely. There's so much fear in that. Exactly.
Yeah, it's loneliness and identity. Yeah.
But then I realized when I got to the point where I just don't want to continue going on in my life like this, being a people pleaser. You know, I'm not a quiet person. I'm a bubbly person. Moving from Los Angeles to Norway, you know, in Norway, people are very reserved, mostly reserved, very quiet. In LA, we're loud. I mean, in America, a lot of people consider Americans loud. So when I moved here, I didn't have to be, but I was really reserved and quiet. And when when I taught meditation, I was really quiet and reserved. And after a couple of years of that, I just felt like I was falling apart. I was like, screw this. At one point, I told Spirit, You know, I just need to be me because this is not working. And I had a fear of not fitting into society. But guess what, Mark? The moment I said, screw this, I'm just going to be me, that's when my business and everything just started booming. And people loved me because I was different. I'm like, wow, you love me because I'm different? My work was more in demand because it was different. So dare to be different. Let go of the old ways of being and just say yes to you and no to the things that don't serve you.
I love it. Dare to be different. Thanks, Rometris, for coming on Inspired Living Radio. You found your authenticity.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you being on the show. Sometimes two people have to fall apart to realize how much they need to fall back together. And as Walt Whitman reminds us, peace is always beautiful. Until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and most importantly, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. We'll see you next time on Inspired Living Radio. Take care, everybody. Namaste.